So we have Native Americans out there that say that we're trying to steal their culture, and I'm going to explain to you why based upon how many tribal governments can exist in the U.S. Great question, and one that opens the door to sovereignty law and reclamation. So, how many tribal governments can exist in the U.S.? There is no legal limit to how many tribal governments can exist in the United States. The number isn't fixed, it depends on recognition, reorganization, and a willingness of people to assert their sovereignty. There's 574 federally recognized tribes. These tribes are acknowledged by the U.S. government as sovereign domestic nations with the ability to govern themselves, manage land, and operate courts and access federal resources. Some tribes are recognized at the state level, not federally. These tribes can still have tribal governments, but their sovereignty is more limited under federal law. Then there's unrecognized tribes. Many indigenous nations were never federally recognized or were stripped of recognition through colonial legal manipulation, racial reclassification, or loss of documentation. These communities can still operate as tribal governments with or without federal permission under natural law and inherent sovereignty. Sovereignty is inherent, not granted. Tribal sovereignty is not something the U.S. gives, it's something tribes already had and may choose to exercise, defend, or reclaim. This means that any indigenous nation with historical continuity and community structure can form a tribal government. Recognition is political, not cultural. Federal recognition is based on legal criteria, including historical documents, ongoing political authority, and community continuity. But this process is colonial, slow, and often racist, particularly against melanated indigenous peoples. You can reorganize a tribal government under the Indian Reorganization Act of 1934. Tribes can reestablish or reorganize their government even if they were previously terminated or reclassified. This has been used by tribes who were terminated by the U.S. in the 1950s and 60s and have since fought to restore their sovereignty. So, how many could exist? Technically, any historical existing tribe or nation that can prove or assert its continuity could create a tribal government. This includes unrecognized tribes currently fighting for federal state recognition, descendants of reclassified or freedmen communities, mound building, Southeastern tribes erased through law, merged or hidden nations that were never officially acknowledged. In other words, there's no cap. The limit is only documentation, political will, and spiritual unity. Why it matters for melanated indigenous people: if your ancestors were on this land before colonization, were classified due to skin color or enslavement, maintain oral traditions, land knowledge, language, or spiritual practice, then you have the right to restore your tribal government, whether recognized by the U.S. or not. There is no legal maximum number of tribal governments in the United States. Any indigenous people with ancestral connection, community organization, and the will to self govern can assert their sovereignty with or without federal recognition. So, if there's so many different tribal governments and you have indigenous people who have the ability to start the tribal governments, reclaim their heritage, and all that kind of stuff, why are you messing? Why are these folks messing with us when we're trying to reclaim our heritage? We literally are not taking nothing from y'all. If you have a tribe and you have traditions within your tribe, us melanated indigenous people are not walking in your land, kicking down your teepees, punching holes in your drums, and stealing your stuff, talking about this is ours now. We don't have to do any of that. We can operate totally within ourselves. So this indigenous erasure stuff really is a lack of research, it's a lack of understanding what's going on. And this is what we've been trying to say for like the longest time. We don't have to steal nothing from y'all. I ain't got nothing to steal.